Touch back from Harfield. 1-0 Burnley. Scott Harfield. He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end. Oh, what a goal! What a goal from Robbie Blake! Burnley's first goal in the Premier League is something very, very special.
Wade Elliott has that change of pace and he's got away from Montgomery. It's the path of McCann and the follow-up finds the net. What a strike from Wade Elliott! A bolt from the Claret and Blue.
Oh goodness me! What a goal from Patterson! If that is to be the one that takes them to Wembley, you cannot argue with that. Pure quality.
Here goes Mike Conroy. Still time for a winner, maybe. John Francis! They came to York in their thousands. They're going home as champions.
I mean, if there's any justice in the world, Burnley would surely score from this corner. Swung right in there. Ball in there. Yeah! Michael Cullen! Oh, that's justice! That is justice at the Amex Stadium. Burnley are level and deserve to be.
Hello and welcome along to the latest episode of the TurfCast podcast, full-time show with me, Joe Redmond, after Burnley's cruise control victory against Wigan Athletic yesterday sees us a step closer to promotion and, of course, the Championship, thanks to Luton doing us a favour. But I'm not too bothered about Sheffield United anymore. I had this debate with somebody on Twitter this week. I'm not even looking at their results. I mean, I look at their results just to see what the league table is, but I'm not that arse anymore. But anyway, joining us is official TurfCast panelist Neil Layfield. How you doing, mate?
Hey, mate, you all right?
Yeah, good, mate. And of course, Nathan from Burnley Monday. How are you, mate?
I'm all good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Really good. Get your comments coming in. It's nice to see them coming in thick and fast. Dan, the sound man, says, come on, you Burnley. Chris P says, we are going up, they are going down. Similar to the last few weeks, isn't it? The teams that we've been playing. Resurge is singing the new Lyle Foster song, which I think is horrendous, if I'm going to be honest with you. That's probably my only controversial opinion that I've got at the minute. It just doesn't work. The idea of people, I think people are getting caught up in the idea of like 10,000 Clarets singing that. It just ain't going to work. I don't like it personally, but each to their own. Solid Clarets, here he is again. Better late than never. I started it at 10. I started it at 10. I am not late, mate. Yes, get your comments coming in. Dominic Golfer says, due to shift work, I don't get to the matches a lot, but I made it yesterday. Great day, great result, and great for Foster to get off the mark. Yeah, Neil, I'll start with you. Thoughts on the game then yesterday? Pretty much cruise control, wasn't it? Apart from about 3 minutes where they had a couple of chances, but other than that, we just weren't troubled, and we were by far and away the better side.
Yeah, we were dominated. We didn't have to get out of second gear, really. Like I said, they had a couple of chances, though. Muric will come on to. Couple of great saves, uncharacteristic mistake by Akhtar, but other than that, they didn't really create anything. And it was just another one of those sort of days at the office for Burnley this season where we're just going in, just doing the job and not having to stretch ourselves too much, which is good. And obviously delighted for Foster.
Yeah, Foster as well. We'll get on to, but it's good to see him off the mark. Nathan, your thoughts on the game? Because me and Neil were talking off air before you joined us.
Yeah.
And it's getting difficult to actually talk about the games, isn't it? Because all the games are pretty similar. We're winning every week. There's no real pressure from underneath us anymore. It's just a procession. Each game is a procession, and the league is a procession.
Yeah, we've sort of been spoiled, haven't we, now, with how good we've been playing. So, like, it's sort of hard to, I don't know, get excited. The jeopardy's gone from the games now, really, because if we win, it doesn't change anything. If we lose, it doesn't change anything. So we're sort of like just trying to get through the gears and get through the games. It sounds like really big-headed and like snobbish of us at this stage of the season. But yeah, like yesterday, were just another doddle, really. You just saw the gap between bottom and top, and I appreciate the circumstances that the Wigan lads were going through, with the wages and stuff like that. So fair play to them for performing as well as they did, to be fair, under crap circumstances, really, because I had a down tools a long time ago if that happened to me.
Yeah, fair enough. Obviously, we've just played the bottom three in the last few games, and I think Blackpool looked the most organised. Wigan were okay. Huddersfield were absolutely dreadful, but I think all three of them are down anyway, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. Nathan Tella, he had one of them games yesterday where he played well against Blackpool, by the way. He just his final ball probably weren't there. But yesterday it was. He had one of them games where he was just unplayable, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's so fast. He's just so fast. Defenders must absolutely shit themselves when they've got to mark him because he's rapid and he doesn't miss, other than obviously last week where you just mentioned, he doesn't miss when he gets a chance, especially when he's through on goal. We just signed the contract, Nathan. We need him. We just need him. Yeah. Just sign the contract. He clearly loves it here. We love him.
Exactly.
What's the hold up?
I think the only issue with that is Southampton basically saying, no, you can't have him. But my argument is if a player says, I don't want to come back to you, I want to stay at this new club, then player power is massive these days. So I can't see Southampton being like, no, you're staying here. And then if he refuses to play, then they've just got an unsettled player on the hands. It's pointless.
Yeah, well, especially if they go down, because they might not have a choice. So
yeah.
I think
Nathan, go on.
I'll say it's a no-brainer from our side and Nathan's side, but I think like Southampton, they're going to be, if they do go down, they're going to have to keep recruitment pretty internal, aren't they? So they're going to have to pull back some loan players, and I'm worried it is going to be a bit of a bum fight over the summer for Nathan Tella, really. So the only way we're going to get him is if we just match, and hopefully that they don't have a massive sort of like buyout clause in his contract. So, but yeah, no-brainer, just get him signed and get as much of that budget for the summer signed on him because he'll be crucial next year.
Yeah, well, the good news is that obviously we've been looking at signing him. That news came out this week, although I didn't really share it too much on TurfCast because I thought, well, obviously we're going to be looking at signing him. He's done so well this season. Like, it's not really news, is it? But was happy to see that anyway, nonetheless. Foster, Neil, good for him to finally get a goal, and he took it really, really well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Superb. He's been getting in the positions. He's just not had that goal yet, and superb play by Obafemi to keep it in for him. And then from that angle, to be fair, it wasn't easy, but he's done really well. And hopefully now that's it. That's that boost he needed, and he goes on a run because he's had a few critics, and it's purely been down because he hasn't scored. Because otherwise his positional play is good. He's in the positions and he's getting in the right spaces. As striker showed, he just needed that goal, and that should be it now.
Yeah, interesting. Nathan as well. I know we've had the debate about Foster on here before, and I think we had the big one the last time you were on it, Nathan. I can't remember, obviously, they all sort of like merge into one. But he had the chance earlier in the game yesterday, which it was a turn, not a criticism, turn and hit, and nearly went in. I remember at times saying, that's unlucky that. But like I said to Nate, it took his goal really, really well, didn't it? It's buzzing to finally see him get off the mark. Yeah,
it's been coming for him, and he's been getting in the right positions. He had that chance against Huddersfield, didn't he, where he went through on goal and, biffed it right into keeper's hands. But I just thought he was getting into the right positions. He was getting there. Like, it's a different league completely in the Championship. It's a complete, it's a basket case league. You're playing against some ridiculous teams week in, week out. Not necessarily skill level, but just fighting and digging in and stuff. And he's going to be, coming against defences that are a bit more resilient to what he's used to. So I was buzzing when I saw him score today, and he took it really well. I thought that was the chances he had to score it. That was one of the harder ones to put away.
Yeah, Angle was well tight,
really well. Yeah, Angle was proper tight. Yeah, really good. Yeah, I'm glad to see he looked really happy with it as well.
He did.
Like his shoulders sort of went up. I know they sort of went back up again after that, and he kicked on a bit. So yeah, I'm happy for him.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well it'll help him get off the mark, and he's off the mark, but it'll help him sort of like get more goals now. And I know a lot of noise from inside the club is sort of like saying they're really happy with his work rate and really happy with his data, because I think we're a club that does a lot of data and stuff now, more so than usual. So they've always been happy with him. Sort of goal surely should only help. But it's weird, isn't it? How the one that you mentioned there, Nathan, that he went through on goal and just kind of panicked. He panicked at that one and just didn't even, like you said, biffed it. Great word. But he gets that one that's like a difficult sort of chance, like a snapshot sort of thing, and he does really well with it. Do you think he's more of that type of player then? Maybe not a through on goal sort of player and kind of like a fox in the box type of player. Do you think that's where he'll get most of his goals then?
I think obviously I didn't know much about him until we signed him, but looking back at what he's done elsewhere, he looks like a bit of an out and out number 9. Like a bit of a on the last man, but only in the final third, not in that sort of running in the channels. You know what I mean? He sort of like loiters on the centre half's toes in and around the final third. But yeah, he certainly looks like he's got the technical ability to be putting chances away, and hopefully we can start playing to his strengths maybe a little bit over the back end of the season, and slot him into our system, but also let us adjust to him and how he plays and stuff. So yeah. That's what Chris P said.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was highlighting it there. I know he said it a bit ago, but as Chris P says there, like the next 10 games is basically pre-season, ready for next season, and that's going to help us, isn't it, Neil? So like bed the likes of Foster more into the squad and hopefully get more goals, and hopefully, like Nathan says, play to his strengths a bit more.
Yeah, it's partly why I seen on social this morning, someone did a survey about whether we've spoke about before whether we're going to get that record or not, and I don't think we will, because I think Company's going to try new things when we've got the title sewn up.
Yeah.
I think he's going to try different players and try different systems and stuff ready for next season.
Yeah, it's not only that as well. I think if we win every single game between now and then, we'll get 110 points. I think
we have to win them all.
With the next 10 games of the teams that we're playing second, third, and fifth. I think Blackburn are now. So yeah, it'll be difficult, but and even that, like I do think we'll try different things and experiment ready for next season as well, like you said, Neil.
Yeah, definitely. And I think obviously we can get those transfer targets now. No doubt he would have had 2 lists. He would have had a promotion one, and if we're still in that League One, and we can hopefully go for the promotion one. I'm sure I read somewhere that we've got a decent budget next year as well. So hopefully,
yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, hopefully, a few tweets about that.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know how. No one knows apart from Alan Pearce and company, but hopefully it's a decent amount, and we can go and get those players that he wants and start getting the team ready for that system that he wants to play in the Premier League.
Yeah. I think they have to go out in the summer. We have to go out and strengthen again. I don't think you get anywhere by just dwelling on your success. Like Alex Ferguson was good at that, weren't he? Like he'd batter the league for years and years and years, and then every summer he'd improve, whether it was backroom staff, players, like he'd just constantly change it. And even though he didn't need to, the squad were already class. But I think that we're gonna have to definitely improve in the summer, even more than we already are. So
strengthen when you're on top, don't you? That's what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't take it off.
You've got to be ruthless with it. There can't be any emotion involved. That's what Fergie were good at. If somebody needed shipping out, they'd be shipped out. It wouldn't be a case of we'll hang on to him because he's done well for 5 years. If he's shit now, he's shit now. So I think again we might see a few players leaving in the summer. I just want to take a bit of a tangent because obviously I've not finished talking about the game yet. Because I do want to talk about Muric, Ekdal, and I do want to talk about Cullen again because he were brilliant. But this is what I love about these labs. So a lot of you guys are a bit more up to date with all the latest stuff than me. I do sometimes, especially with a little boy and shit. I've got to get up, feed him, feed myself. I've not seen anything this morning. But Chris P says that Nixon has said that we're likely to get THB back on loan next season as long as he signs a new deal with City. So that'd be brilliant, wouldn't it, Neil, if we can get THB? But then we'll have to have the debate of Ekdal, Bayer, and THB all over again, won't we, for another season?
We will, but we'll need backup. Well, we need 4 good centre half for the Premier League because they're not all going to be able to play every week, and there'll be dips and troughs in form as well. So yeah, it'd be good to have him, and it's a nice problem to have that we'll have that quality, because we don't know. We know Ekdal's good in this league, but we don't know how good he's going to be in the Premier League. Same for Bayer. It'd be nice to have another option if it's not quite working. Because it's obviously other than the teams that are in the sort of bottom half of the Premier League, it's completely different level of that league. So it'd be nice to have that quality that we can just rotate if we have to.
Yeah. There's going to be bigger peaks and troughs between games. At the minute, we just seem to be like peak, and then a little trough, and then peak. Whereas player performances are going to be, I think they're going to be very up and down. Not up and down. I mean, like they're going to find games that are ridiculously difficult for them, and then some games are going to find that are a little bit easier. So having that rotation between definite 3 starter centre backs and possibly a 4th starter centre back, then it's going to be beneficial. So
definitely
getting THB on loan again, it's a no-brainer. If a City are happy, then that's the other people we've got with PG City, and we're bow to their needs for THB. So if they're happy, then everyone else is happy to have him, and I'm sure he would be. He's having a great time.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be happy to stay here. But as Solent Clarets says, winning the FA Cup will put us in Europe next season. Some more games.
Exactly.
So we need all these players. We need all these players.
They ain't going to give us THB when we pot them out at quarterfinals, are they? So better than 2 evils, isn't
Yeah,
it?
true. But I know what you're saying there, Nathan. It's going to be interesting to see how we get on next season. And I know we've had this debate a few times, but there's going to be games where we don't have. I think we are good with the ball and without the ball, as Sol and Clarets also highlighted in the chat earlier, that the Wigan manager highlighted it yesterday. But it's going to be interesting to see how we are without the ball next season against teams like City and Chelsea, who are very good with the ball. So yes, we might not be with the ball, but it's not. It's just going to be so difficult to get it back, and then to see how we settle defensively with them sort of situations. But yeah, that's a different debate. I do want to get back to the match. Muric did really, really well. Neil, I know you're the leader of the Muric fan club and have defended him on loads of occasions, as I think we all have, to be fair. Pretty much everyone's sort of like level-headed on this show and in the chat. But it's another great performance from Muric. A great save, the first header, and the second one probably should have made it, but two good saves that kept us in it.
Yeah, definitely. And I was saying to you just before we started, it shows, doesn't it, when he was getting a bit of a pepper for the mistakes he made. I can't remember what game it was now where he just dropped it. I can't remember what it was, and he was getting peppering after that. And I said at the time on the full-time show then that if a keeper makes a mistake, they get punished, but everyone makes mistakes. And it showed yesterday that Ekdal made a mistake and Muric was there to bail him out. It's just that unfortunately Muric just doesn't have anybody to bail him out if he makes a mistake. But yesterday he showed his quality. Great saves. As you say, one he probably should have made, but he made it anyway. But what I liked about it was when he was sort of parrying them, he was making sure that they were going to completely away instead of just parrying them back out. He was making sure they were going where there wasn't anybody, and he had the awareness to do that. And then obviously he was doing his quarterback routine as well with an NFL player in the stands watching him do it.
Yeah, it was good that the games like that as well, where he basically could have a little deck chair and a water bottle and a good book for 90 minutes. But when he needs to, he can put it all down and get in position ready, and he does that. You know what I mean? He's good at staying in the game, even though he's very rarely involved in the game, not involved in the game on a shot stopping stance. But I think always the centre halves always seem to play back to him no matter what, even though there's no point in passing it back to him. They always give it back to him, and then he resets it back to them just to keep him involved in it. And I think that's a really crucial component to keeping him, like warm basically in games like that.
He's a key part of the system that company wants to play.
He's we don't play like we do with any other keeper that we've had in the last 7-8 years. Does he? He's absolutely crucial to that.
Yeah, Mark Hickson says Muric gets better each game for me. He's improved very much on dealing with aerial situations, which was the next bit I was going to come to you both about. He caught a lot of crosses as well, didn't he, Neil? So that was good to see. Because that's another thing he's been criticised on. And I do think earlier in this, that was the thing that was the only thing for me that was worrying me. I didn't mind passing out from the back because obviously I knew I was told to play that. But sometimes the crosses, he did flap out. But it's good to see him come out and collect some crosses with confidence as well.
Yeah, he looked very confident in the show with the ball. He's a young keeper. He's still learning his trade. And we are going to see him getting better the more he plays. So, yeah, it's obviously going the right way. That he's a lot better now than he was at the start of the season. It's showing that it's working and his progression is on track.
He must look at this as like his second chance because he floated around the first team at City, didn't he? And he had a few cup games and then went on loan and he weren't great.
Forest.
So he was obviously not many players have a poor Premier League season in the debut at a young age and then redeem it again. You know what I mean? They sort of get lost in the wilderness, either abroad or down the league. So I think it's using this chance to sort, to get himself sorted. And I've seen a few clips as well, like in the backgrounds, like the training clips, like they seem to be doing a lot of like high pressure contact sessions in the back. Like claiming for high crosses or claiming for crosses where they're getting pushed around a lot and. So they've obviously seen some and rectified it, and it's working perfectly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. The True Red says Muric, I have to eat humble pie with because he's adjusted very well under Vincent Kompany. Exceeded my expectations considering what he was like at us a few years ago. The True Red is, of course, a Nottingham Forest fan. Good to see him in the chat again, though. But I did put a big post up yesterday on the socials. If you want to follow TurfCast, you can just go TurfCast Podcast. On Twitter, YouTube, this is YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, whatever. Got some good responses. Anti-Football says 2 very decent saves and good to be reminded he is capable at keeping as well as sweeping. Martin Bellis says, was immense when called into action. Chuck Norris, I doubt it's the Chuck Norris. More importantly, he came and took 2 good chances, 2 good crosses outside of his 6-yard box and commanded the area, which obviously we've touched on. An interesting debate going on underneath these comments, though, is who starts at Man City? Do you carry on with Bailey? I'll start with you, Nathan. Do you carry on with Bailey? Or, because he's been playing in obviously the Cup, or do you give, now that this is becoming like the quarterfinals and important, do you give it to Muric?
Me, the football manager player, would probably put Muric in, but knowing company and knowing where he's played, he does tend to follow a lot of trends that have happened, like at City, that he has a dedicated cup keeper. So I do think, in all fairness, it probably should be Peacock Farrell because he has played well in all the cup games he's been a part of. So it would be unfair at this point. And like when it was at City, it was like Claudio Bravo, when he had a rick in him every game, but yet he always played. He always gave a keeper, a cup keeper, and a league keeper. So I think I would put Muric back in because it's now getting serious and it's a once in a lifetime. Well, not once in a lifetime, but it's once in a couple of decade opportunity to get to a semi against a mad, a ridiculously good team. So I would put full strength out really because the league's wrapped up in it. So
I agree. I think company will do Bailey. But I don't know. But then, as we were just saying earlier, I think he's capable of being ruthless, and emotions got to come out of it sometimes. And I think this is one of these situations where you've got to be like, "I'm sorry, but you're not as good as Muric." It has to be full strength. This has got to be the full strength team.
You're probably going to keep Bailey on side for next season as well, because I think finding a first team keeper is not easy, but pretty straightforward to do at transfer market. It's finding a good backup keeper that's on board and willing to fight and die for the cause when it's needed. So I think it is going to be it's going to be 50-50 coin toss. I think literally it's one or the other, but I can't call it. But judging what he's done in the past, I think it will be Peacock Farrell just because he's a cup keeper, as it were. So.
Yeah, Neil, who would you play?
Depends what we want to do, because we were saying, weren't we, about trying a system out for next year in the Premier League, and I said when we got the draw that it's a good chance to see that to benchmark us against Premier League. So for me, my head's saying go with Muric and play full strength and see where we are. It'll give company a good idea of just how far off them we are. Obviously, I'm not saying that we're going to be anywhere near City when we go up, but it'll show how far off that level, being able to compete at that level we are. So for me, I would go full strength, but I'm thinking company might have that cup team.
Was that looking at the United game in Carabao Cup? He played Peacock Farrell then. We spoke about that being a good watermark test of where we're at, and Peacock Farrell played in that with basically it was the first team, but with Peacock Farrell in there. Yeah. So I do probably think I would put Muric in personally because he's your number one in it. So this is now number one priority game for me at the minute. So
it's just a shame we got City because it could have been such a massive game against anybody else in the draw. I fancied us against even United more so than City at the minute. Although I know a lot of people disagree with that when the draw came out. Cullen, I want to talk about Cullen because he was fantastic again, and there's not much more we can say about Cullen. So Neil, this is one of the things that me and you were talking about. Where what more do we say? But it's one of them where he was doing the thing that he does, where he just quietly goes about his game, doesn't get many of the plaudits because he's just kind of mopping it up and passing it out and giving it to the more creative players to do the job. But if it wasn't for Tella's goals yesterday, and I know Zarori got the man of the match from the sponsors, which, by the way, I don't know why they give it him. They obviously just wanted to meet him at the end of the match. They obviously just wanted to meet him. He did all right, don't get me wrong.
I'm only bitter. It cost me 120 quid on my bet. He had to have one shot on target, and he didn't register a single. And that was my only thing that let me down. So, Anas, if you're watching, you owe me 120 quid.
There you go, Anas. If you just send it to @TurfCast podcast, and I'll make sure Nathan gets it. But for me, we'll get onto the man of the match later. But for me, Cullen was superb, weren't he? Absolutely fantastic, just pulling the strings, nice and calmly, doing what he does best. Yeah,
he's consistent. He just does his job, turns up, does his job, shows no emotion, goes home.
That's pretty much it. That's what he does. It's the same every week, though, isn't it? There's not much more you can say on him. He's kind of like Jack Cope, but just on steroids. He's just one of them players that doesn't get the plaudits that he gets.
Yeah, I've chatted to my mates after the game, and he's just like Ron Seal, and he just does what he says on tin. Like, you know what you're getting from him. He turns up. He's not got any fancy sock tape. He's not got any fancy boots on. He's not got any fancy haircuts. He's just playing football and just doing his job well, and his consistency is ridiculous. That's the thing that stands out to me. Not his technical abilities, his consistency every game. He's like an 8 every game, and having an 8 in your team every game is nuts. That's unheard of these days, unless you're at the top level.
Especially in his position as well. It's key position. So definitely.
It's frustrating because you can't speak any highly of him, but I want to, but you can't because there's nothing else to say. You know what I mean? He's player of the season, like not even up for debate for me. Like without him in this system, we don't like say he's just one of them key players that it don't work without him.
Yeah, no, it's a good shout. That he probably won't get it though because he's not a glamour name. He'll be one of the glamour names that gets it.
Yeah,
but
he needs to put fancy boots on and get a fancy
exactly. He
haircut.
needs some bright orange ones, doesn't he? But it's what he does. Yeah, it does go unnoticed, but he is a massive part of the way we play and the season we've had.
As Mark says there, Cullen is player of the season for me. Interesting though, I just went on Who Scored to get some stats about him. I don't know why I need to bother doing that when I've got Solent Clarets just reeling him out for me every stream. Thank you again there for that, Solent. But he only got... I've gone off the screen now. How do you get back on that screen? I don't know. But I think his match rating was like 6.8. And I was like, what? He played much better than that. So he's not even getting the plaudits off the stats websites. But he had a pass success rate yesterday of 94%. Goodmanson was actually better on 96%. But Cullen had 73 accurate passes out of 75, whereas Goodmanson only had 26 accurate passes out of 27 attempted. So you can see the difference there. And that ultimately on these sort of websites does bring his rating down. But I just think it's fantastic. I like the fact that we are playing now. I love Jack, but I'm going to say without Jack. I don't mean it as in Jack personally, but without the two in there, because you don't need the two players in there all the time. I think it's good to see something different. But it's good to see Mark Higson agree with you, Nathan, that we could get the player of this season. But I think it's one of them. I don't think he's Hollywood enough.
It's not sexy enough.
Yeah.
I was just looking through the Who Scored page there, and it's literally like 93, 83, 88, all the way through. There's been 2 games this season where he's below 80, and that were Wigan away, 77%, and Luton away at 75%. And both them games we still won. So that shows how he's the machine, and he's the heart of the machine that keeps that ball moving. He doesn't do anything silly. Like his long balls are like minimal. Like he has no more than like 3 or 4 a game. So he's obviously just doing the basics, right? Get the ball, give it to an attacking player. Yeah, and that's what you need. You need someone like that. Like I said, that was Cork's role for ages. But now it's Cullen's. Chris P points out. I like how Chris P's giving the plaudits to the Welsh player, Chris P, the Welshman in the chat. But he says Connor Roberts made 56 successful final third passes in the win yesterday. It's a championship record. I wasn't really going to discuss Connor because we've done it a million times. But he played brilliantly again, didn't he, Nathan? Another fantastic performance from Connor. And I know we've said it a million times, but Connor before the World Cup compared to Connor after the World Cup, he's just so much better, and he is an integral part of the team now. Yeah, he's brilliant. Yeah, he's attacking play. He's brilliant. Like he almost doesn't really have to defend anymore now, which frees him up to be more adventurous and do the overlapping runs and get on the end a few crosses when he has to. But yeah, this second, we'll just forget about the first half. We'll pretend like it never happened for Connor. But the first half of the season, the second half, he's been ridiculous. One of our most consistent players again in the second half of the season. Yeah, Neil, I know you're a big fan of Connor. I am. He's obviously not listening though because he's not grown his tash back. But no, gutted about that. He looks so suave. Oh, it was class. But yeah, I'm a big fan. He's another. He's like Cullen. He's consistent, and he's got a hell of a cross on him. Really good cross on him, and he's actually like a key part of our creative play as well now. He's a bit mischievous as well, isn't he? Yeah. I've noticed that he's creepy. I've only started noticing it recently. He's a little bit mischievous because he had that McLean on toast, didn't he, yesterday? Not necessarily like 1v1s, but he was just winding him up. The second McLean came up pitch, Connor Roberts was just on him straight away. And it worked as well. He started lashing out at him a bit, didn't he? McLean had a few nasty challenges in there. But Roberts just loves a pointless booking, doesn't he? Just loves a pointless booking. It's not 3-0 up, just get a booking. It's fine. Yeah. Mark Higson, just going back to the midfield chat, he says, do we need a long-term replacement for Cork in the summer, do you think, lads? Neil, I'll start with you. I think we've got it. I think we've got Cullen. And then we just need someone to play alongside Cullen. But it really depends on what... It's like we touched on it earlier. We don't necessarily need 2 in the middle. So as long as we've got Cullen
it depends how company wants to play. But I don't think we're necessarily, in terms of coach replacement, that is Cullen. We just need someone to go alongside him, depending how company wants to play.
Yeah, fair enough, Nathan. I just put my tuppence in first, actually. It's one of them. I think we don't necessarily need two in that role in a lot of games. But obviously, next season, I think we will need two in that role in more games than obviously this season. So it's going to be interesting. I do think Cullen is the long-term replacement for Cork because I don't think you're going to find many people as good as Cullen in that role. But you just need someone to play alongside him, don't you, Nathan? So I think a replacement could come in because it's not going to be Bastian in the Premier League, with all due respect to Bastian. So be interested to see what we do there.
Yeah, you said what I was going to say. I think it's going to vary between. We're going to be playing like, it goes in the Premier. You play like two leagues, don't you? You have like your Premier League A League, and then you have your Premier League B League. So I think for them top 6-7 games, we're going to play two midfielders, and I think that's where Cork comes in. And I don't think we actually need to replace him next season. It will be the season after that, dependent what happens, obviously. We probably might not replace him, but get a backup ready for January. But in the bigger games, I think we will play two, and it will just be Cork and Cullen again. And I think that just seems to be working at the minute. And Cork's experience in the dressing room in these games is going to be pivotal. Again, I said like other week that having them older heads in the dressing room for these younger lads in this new league that they've never played in, again, it's going to be absolute key. So I think long term, we do need a replacement for Cork. Short term, first half of the season, I think we'll be all right because it'll flip between the one or the two midfielders.
Yeah, Mark Hickson does say maybe Brownell playing in a two with Cullen. Brownell is capable of doing a job there, but I do think he's a little bit restrained there. I would like to see Brownell further forward, if I'm being honest with you. What do you two think about him playing there? Yeah,
he played there when we were in the Premier League last time, and I don't think I know it was a completely different culture in a club, but he wasn't effective playing there. He's much more effective further up the pitch.
Yeah, definitely.
It almost slotting as like a bit of a number 10 money, almost like they have like a false 10 now. False 9. False 9. They have a false 10 now. They have a false bloody everything. But it probably would slot in a bit further ahead of the two when it's needed. Yeah. But I don't think I trust him long term as your defensive midfielder. Personally, I think he does.
I think he got a lot of stick last season. I think a lot of players, fans were sort of like saying, "Oh, he's not good enough for us anymore." Unfairly. Yeah, definitely, because he was playing in a position that he doesn't prefer. He prefers to be further forward, and I think we've seen how good he can be further forward, albeit in a different league, a league with not as good quality. Actually, I just want to bring up a comment that M. Mack has brought in. What do we think about the future of Twine being unlucky with injuries, but think he has a future with us? It's interesting. Obviously, before we get onto that, I do think he's got a future with us. I think it was silly for us to spend that sort of money on him and then just be like, right, you've had too many injuries, we're off, and neck a loss on him. But what happened with him? I expected him to be on the bench at the very least yesterday. I wasn't overall amazingly impressed with his performance against Blackpool, Neil, so maybe it was something to do with that, why company didn't play him. But has he picked up another injury that I've missed or something? Again, might be somebody in the chat that knows anything.
I've not heard if he's injured or not, but I think he's almost like when we were having a debate about the January signings, he's almost a bit like that because he's been injured for so long of the season. He's not been part of the squad and learnt the system. It's almost like he's needing that time to learn the system and get into his flow. So I think it's a little bit unfair to sort of judge him off this because he's missed a good, half the season. Yeah. So he's not had that bedding in period and grown with the team like the rest of them have. So I think there's definitely a future for him, and I think it's possibly one of them where he'll maybe go on loan.
Yeah, I was going to say that's what I'd do. Again, put my football manager out, and I'd let him have a full season of the Championship.
Yeah.
First, because like you say, this is basically like he's probably in around October. You know what I mean? If you put it in relation to when he signed it, he's probably at around the October mark, and that's when we actually, as a team, started kicking on. Yeah. So all the players like clicked, they got the system, they got the fitness in. He didn't. He just had to sit and watch us do all this. So like, he's probably going to reach his not prime, but like his best part of the season as we wrap the league up. We potentially might not be in the cup anymore. So like, he's not going to get his chance to sort of prove what he's worth. So I think probably next season, I think a Championship loan would be beneficial for both both of us. Really.
Solent Clarent agrees with you there, Nathan. He says, I don't think Twine is a Premier League player just yet. A loan to a highly rated Championship club for half a season would work. And Mark Higson agrees with something I was saying to my dad last week at Blackpool, because he got bullied off the ball too much. There were so many challenges where it was too easy for the Blackpool defence, and I don't think the likes of Brownhill or Goodmanson would have been muscled off the ball too easily. So I do agree with that. I do think he needs. I think both of them comments are perfect. I think a year in the Championship will help him become less lightweight. So I think it just makes sense to send him out on loan next year.
I think he's a little bit nervous about getting injured again. To be fair, I think now that he's in and amongst the team, I think he's a bit scared about getting injured and being out long term again. So a loan move, get that confidence back, get playing week in, week out, build your resilience. Yeah.
I said remember that from last week where you said about him being lightweight, and I think he's a bit of the odd. He's like the odd one out of the team. A lot of our players seem to be, even the players that don't look like strong, they are strong. You know what I mean? Like Tella, like he's quite strong. To be fair, he doesn't look it, but he's resilient. He's like players will bounce off him sometimes, but Twine seems to just not be interested. So whether that is scared to be injured or not, or he's actually realised, Christ, this is a bit of a step up from League One to where we're at now. I think it's Championship loan. Get a good pre-season under his belt and see where he's at. So Southampton might need some players next year, by the way, Scott, if you're listening. So.
We'll
actually, that's a good point.
For us.
If they did want him as part of a deal for Tella, I'd do it.
Again, sorry, Scott, if you're listening, I'm going to shipping you out.
Chris P says, I think we're looking to loan a few players out next season. Twine, Chernoff, Bastian, McNally and CJ. I think, with Coventry very interested in McNally. I think we might have seen the back of him, to be honest, but we'll see how that goes. Obviously, there's been a few rumours that I've already seen somebody put in the chat about Coventry are going to really step up the interest. I think Nixon said today. Hopefully we can use that as something to get the big Swede, whose name I'm not even going to try and pronounce. I'll have to learn to pronounce that if we do sign him, though. I just keep calling him Big Vic or the Big Swede. So that'll be interesting.
I think what will happen is McNally will come in for next season, because what we're talking about is with Twine is what's happened with McNally. He wasn't ready for us at the top of the table. He's then gone out, played in a pretty decent Coventry side, to be fair. They'd probably be a bit higher if they didn't have their cock at the start of the season with the ground, whatever. So I think Alderkirk will become the loanee for next season, and McNally will be coming in as the fourth choice rotation. Because obviously what Coventry are saying, they're saying he's like the real deal, like he's ready, you know what I mean? So I think that's probably what will happen. And I hope so, because I want to see him in our squad rather than elsewhere.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now these rumours of THB have started about him coming back next season. If he'd have left this season, I think McNally would have probably been third choice behind Bayer and Ekdal. But then with THB potentially staying on loan now next season, if that does happen, then that pushes McNally down again. So we'll see. He might not want to be fourth choice, to be fair to him. But as Mark Hickson says, I'd keep him long term potentially. I think I would. I think even if we go up another season on loan wouldn't. You might as well keep him. I think we're giving a decent contract in terms of length. But it's interesting. We'll debate all that as obviously in the summer, shows in the summer. Maybe have a summer break on TurfCast, who knows? I want to talk about Vitinho, though, Neil, because obviously he played again yesterday, quite higher up this time, though, because obviously we had Martson back and we had Roberts at fullback. How do you think he played? Because I thought he played okay. I found him a little bit frustrating sometimes how he didn't try and beat his man. Whereas if you look at the other side of the pitch, you'd always have Tella trying to beat his man. Sorry, not Tella, Zarori trying to beat his man and get the ball in. Whereas Vitinho, it kind of gives a bit of an imbalance because we get the ball to him. And I know it's part of the system, like keep the ball if you can and don't just do a wayward pass. But he'd always be looking to cut inside rather than looking to beat his man on. Whereas Zarori would look to beat his man on. If he couldn't do it, then he'd come back. Don't know. I found him a little bit frustrating. Even though he played relatively well, I just thought I wanted a bit more attacking from him. What did you think?
Same as you. It's a little bit frustrating. He's quite good attacking, but I think
that's why I found it frustrating. I think I've seen him do really
earlier
well
in
in
the
the
season.
past,
we were saying because we were debating about when Roberts wasn't playing well, would we drop him and play Vitinho? And I was saying we've got Roberts for the defensive side and Vitinho for the attacking side. But now Roberts is doing the attacking bit. It's making Vitinho that bit more frustrating because he is better attacking.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm not
he
one
did
to
all right.
question. Yeah, I'm not one to question company because he's given me nothing to question him about. But I feel like Vitinho's playing on the wrong side. It looks to me that every time he gets the ball, he wants to come inside, and then when he comes inside, he's on his weaker foot, and then he tries to beat a man, but it doesn't really work because he's then getting crowded out because he's come inside on his wrong side. So I think he might be better on the other side, as sort of like an inverted fullback wing or whatever, and let him pop shots off. But I'm not swapping Vitinho off as a Muric, so I think Vitinho's just going to have to suck it up, I think, until Vitinho gives him an excuse to be dropped. So.
Yeah, Solent Clarets, as you can see on screen, says, agree, I wish he would try and take players on, especially as their left back had been booked. That was the thing that I found most frustrating, because it'd be a case of get it out wide to Vitinho, he'd cut back inside, then we'd get the ball round the other side of the fence, up to Zarori, who'd then try and make things happen. It's like, well, you might as well just cut Vitinho out and give it straight to Zarori in the first place. That's what I mean, it gave us the imbalance. And Mark Hickson does make a point, though, similar to one that you were just saying, Nathan. He did a decent job on the wing, but it is not his natural position. Yeah, it would have been better if he's on his natural side and a little bit further deep, but you've got Markson and Zarori on that side, so what can you do?
Yeah. And our system, I don't think, is to beat a man and whip a ball in. That's what you put Vitinho there to do, is to beat a man and then naturally whip the ball in, as it were. But it's not that. So it's naturally to funnel it down into the middle of the 18-yard box. And I think Vitinho's caught between two positions there, that he wants to do the right thing, what his coach is telling him, but his natural thing is to beat a man, whip it in. So,
yeah, it's interesting, but we'll see what happens. As Chris P points out, we do have Taylor as well for these sort of positions, but I think it's one of them where we think he will be off in the summer. But yeah, again, we'll see what happens with that one. I do want to get on to man of the match. I always like a good man of the match debate. I'm surprised. I know I mentioned it already, but I'm still surprised that the sponsors gave it Zarori. I thought he played well, but I don't know. He should have. Well, I wouldn't say he should have scored, but he had that chance, which he should have at least got on target for Nathan. That he put wide. He did well though. He did very well to get the assist for the first goal. If I remember rightly, it was his ball on the left for Tella. But Tella was just. He had one of them games where he was just unplayable. I know we spoke about him already, but he was unplayable, and that is for me why I'm going to give him man of the match. He scored 2 goals, obviously 2 headers. Smallest player on the pitch scoring 2 headers. But to get in front of his man for the first goal, it's a great run. We know how fast he is, so that's how we got in front of his man. But good movement as well, and a good header back across the goal. Flicking it across the goal, and then the second one, bit of a bobble in the box. But again, you've got to be alert. But then there was other scenarios as well where he's stretching the player. I remember him closing them down and just making things happen. Like I did a debate on TurfCast this week. Start one, bench one, sell one, and I couldn't believe how many people put Tella. I was like, I think he's our leading goal scorer. I think, isn't he? Like for me, I think he'd be the on the bench. I think, but I don't want to get into that debate because people will tell me I'm wrong. My man of the match. Get your comments in the chat. We'll put them all on screen as and when they come in. But my man of the match is Tella. Neil, who was yours?
Muric, always is. No, Tella, definitely Tella. Yeah.
My only criticism. Go on, sorry.
It's like you were saying. He's got the 2 goals. He was creative. He was in the positions. It's got to be Tella for me.
Yeah, fair enough, Nathan.
Yeah, I think no one else in the team had to do anything spectacular yesterday. So you're not really looking at you're not needing a heroic defensive performance from Bayer. You just need them to just be consistently good. But yeah, I think you might make the same point I'm about to make. But the only criticism with Tella is he probably should have had 4 yesterday. Yeah. He's had 2 really good chances to get 2 more goals there, and I think we need that extra bit of ruthlessness from him. I think, which is daft to say he's our top scorer, but I think just that clinical edge there, and he'll be banging in even more goals for us.
Yeah, that the one that he put just wide. It's one of them. Like I always say to the people I go on the turf with, which is my dad, and that's just him. So I don't know why I said people. But you can guarantee, you can put your mortgage on him when he goes through a goal. And obviously yesterday, I think it's the first time I've seen him miss a 1-on-1. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. But the keeper did well to close the angle down. I'll give the Wigan goalkeeper that. He did very well to close the angle down. And the fact that Nathan Tella got it so close, it sounds going to sound weird. I was actually that impressed with. Like, it's literally the only place he can put it, and he still put it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tella for me. Sorry, I said Muric. Tella for me. Definitely the man of the match. But comments coming in. Solent Clarets says, Roberts, he confused the opposition all match with the positioning. 117 passes with 94% passing accuracy. Solent Clarets, you need to change your name to Stat Clarets or Solent Stats, because I love it how you always back your opinion
football
up with
hipster's choice, isn't it? That football hipster's choice. Love it.
You need to start coming up with some stats about how often TurfCast starts on time, which will probably be 100% of the time, but you'll say 0% of the time. Mark Higson says, tight call between Cullen and Tella for me yesterday, but I'd edge towards Tella man of the match. Resurge, another football hipster's choice. He says, Muric. Although to be fair, Muric kept us in it, definitely.
Yeah, did keep us in it.
Yeah. Chris P, I don't know if this is just a stat or his man of the match. Says Obafemi has 2 goals and 1 assist in 5 Champions games, all from the bench too. It's probably be a bit of an out there shout for man of the match though, Chris. Dorbe or Duboy 88 says Tella all day long. Players were bullying him, running around the pitch, winning tackles. True Red says can't be anyone but Tella. M Mac says Tella work rate fantastic and 2 great finishers. Jamie Budd says Tella a shout. Mark Hickson says Bassi in a shout. I think you're taking piss now. Solent Clarence says you were 2 minutes late today. I started it at 10. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Obviously, I always like to do this towards the end of the stream. And it's just getting better and better, isn't it? It is, of course, the league table. So I will just bring it in for you now. Obviously, it got better yesterday because of Luton doing us a favour. And, of course, Stoke not doing us a favour, but giving us all a bit of joy on Friday night. So there it is. It's on your screen now. The Clarets are currently top of the tree, as we all knew, on 80 points. 80 points. And it's currently March 12th. That's ridiculous. We are insanely good. Luton Town, like I said, did us a favour, beating Sheffield United. So we have now gone even further ahead of them. 13 points as it stands. Middlesbrough did win, though, despite being 1-0 down. They come from behind at Swansea. So the gap to them stays at 17 points. You've then got Luton 3 points behind them. The Fiddlers 2 points behind Luton. Then Millwall making it to the playoffs on 57. Then you've got Norwich, West Brom, Coventry, and Watford. Are Watford still in with a shout? Because if Watford is still in with a shout, you've probably got to include Preston. Yeah. I'd say it probably goes down to Coventry. I think Watford can say goodbye to the playoffs now, if I'm honest. And speaking of bets, Nathan, Watford let me down on an acca yesterday.
They let me down as well. I was a little cynical. I picked them because I thought, Wilder, new manager bounce.
Exactly that. Neil,
next week.
Yeah, probably. Neil, how good does that look? I don't always say it every week. But it looks fun. Hang it in the Louvre, as they say.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? It's not just that. It's look at the goals as well. 71 goals, 28 conceded. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
I like comparing it to that last season in the champ with Dyche when we went 23 unbeaten. Like at the end of the season, we'd scored 72 goals at the end of the season, and we went 23 unbeaten. We've scored 71 already, and there's like 10 games left.
Yeah.
It just shows how ruthless we've been, doesn't it? And if it wasn't for draws against teams like Blackpool, admittedly Blackpool did very well to dig in, and the slow start to the season, it could be so much better. It's mad that we're sitting here going how much better it could be and how good this is. But my mate Robbie always says to me, like, just stop and appreciate it at some points because it's never going to be this good again. It's never going to be this good again.
That's why I like comparing it to that championship season, because that to me felt like it ain't going to get better than this. 23 unbeaten, like that's ridiculous. You know, like every game after January, we just win. You know, they were class. But like we finished that season with 26 wins and 15 draws. Like we're on 23 wins already and only 11 draws. Like it's going to get better than that season. We finished on 93 points. Like the difference is just ridiculous. And like I said, just enjoy it. Enjoy this moment because it doesn't get better than this at football at this level.
Yeah, the only thing that it can get better is if we win a major trophy next season or season after. Yeah. But even then, like the season itself might be a struggle, but with like a shining light of a trophy. But I think that's the last thing for me as a Burnley fan. I've seen them win at Old Trafford, win at Stamford Bridge, beat Blackburn now, obviously a lot of times. Win at Anfield, although we didn't see that. But you know what I mean? We've done it in my lifetime. I just want to see him win a trophy now. That's it. I'm 35. You know, you can. You know, I'm getting on a bit. So just let me see something good. You know, don't let me wait 20 years until I'm in my 50s.
I'm sort of like a bit apprehensive with the semi-final because I feel like it being at Wembley takes the shine off getting to Wembley for the final. Like,
it does.
Like, people are excited, getting to Wembley for a semi-final. Yeah, but it's just a semi-final. Like, we've done Wembley, we've been there, we've won at Wembley. Like, it's fine, we've done it. We don't need to go back to Wembley and have a semi-final win. So I'm a bit gutted about that. But obviously, if we did it, it'd be buzzing, and we'd have 2 trips to Wembley, which is going to be an awkward discussion with the wife. But
Neil, it'd be even more awkward discussion for you with Bambino on the way and being a hell of a lot further away.
Indeed.
But just want to quickly get everyone's opinions, even the chat as well, if you want to join in, on who you think is going to finish second. Because up until this week, should I say, I've been saying, no, Sheffield United will still have enough. But losing at home yesterday to, a decent Luton side, but it's got to be a psychological blow, that, hasn't it? Losing at home to Middlesbrough, losing at home to Luton, the 2 teams directly beneath you. I think they might be crumbling now, but I'm going to sit on the fence, to be honest. I don't know. It can go either way, can that battle for second, and I think it'll go down to the last few weeks of the season. Who do you think is going to finish in top 2, Neil?
Borough. I think that they've got momentum, which is massive in football. We've said it before, but I also thought Carrick was like a new manager bounce thing, but he's really not. They're playing some really good stuff, and he's doing a very, very good job. And I do think the wheels will come off at Sheffield United. I think the consistency's gone out the window. I think they're looking over their shoulder a little bit, which they weren't to start with, because they were sort of just trying to chase us. There was no one near us.
I think they had a 14-point gap on third at one point, someone said yesterday.
Yeah, and now there's all of a sudden that's gone, and psychologically looking over the shoulders a little bit. I think they've gone now.
It's like, if you compare them to us, like when we have a bad game, we draw. You know what I mean? Like, when Sheffield United have a bad game, they lose 3-1 to
9 defeats. 9 defeats.
They lose 3-2 to Millwall.
Yeah.
They lose 1-0 to Blackburn. Fucking Blackburn.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if we have a dip and it's a draw, it's a point. We still get a point on the table. I think Middlesbrough, they're doing what we're doing. Is if they are playing, apart from that West Brom game recently, but they seem to just be picking up results, even if they're playing not well. So,
fair
I think
enough.
Middlesbrough will do it.
I think that's the only interesting battle, really. I think the bottom 3 are sorted. Obviously, champions are sorted. So I think the only interesting battle is the top 2 and the battle for the playoffs. As Chris P says, and this is what I said on Twitter the other week to somebody who was saying, I can't believe you're bothered about Sheffield. You're not bothered about Sheffield United. It's because they're looking down. They're not looking up thinking, oh, what can we do to catch Burnley? Now they're thinking, oh, shit, how can we make sure we're not caught by Middlesbrough? And that, as we've already said, is the psychological thing. Playoffs. Who do you think is going to get playoffs? Jason says Sheffield United 2nd, Luton 3rd. He's gone Middlesbrough all the way down as 4th, Blackburn 5th, Norwich 6th. Bookmark it, remember the day. Right, Jason, come back on the day. Come back on the day and we'll discuss how wrong that was. There's no way Middlesbrough finished 4th. No way. But I think playoffs, I don't know. I think Middlesbrough maybe still might just have a bit too much to do, and eventually they're going to have a blip. I think Middlesbrough maybe still 3rd. I don't. Then I'm thinking Luton just seem to keep getting momentum. I think Luton will finish 4th. Then Millwall 5th, and then I think West Brom might sneak into 6th. What about you, Neil? How do you think playoffs is going to go?
Well, I do think Borough going up, so it'll be Sheffield United, Luton. God, I can't see them making it. I don't know if I can see them making it genuinely. They are so poor. It's a travesty if they do make it. Millwall. Norwich have got a form, so I think Norwich might overtake Blackburn or Millwall. I just don't know which one.
Yeah, they've started putting a run together, haven't they? There was a little bit stop-start after Wagner come in, but now they started putting a run together. They're a little bit stop-start because they played teams like us, to be fair. But now they've started putting a run together. But yeah, I'm the same as you, Neil. I just can't see, even though they've been so good recently in terms of the results, but they've won a lot of shit games 1-0, apart from Sheffield United. All right, that was 1-0, and that was a decent result against an okay side, but they're out of form as well. So every time I see one of their results, I'm just like, I'm not impressed. I'm just not impressed by it.
No.
Nathan, top 6. Who do you think is going to be? Well, 3rd to 6th, should I say?
Yeah, I think Sheffield United, Luton. This is in no particular order. I'm not that good. I think it'll be Sheffield United, Luton. I think Blackburn will do it. They've hit that turn of form. Just like you need to at back end of a season, you need to just to kick on a bit. I think they will get playoffs. And Norwich, I think, will sneak in. But I also don't give a shit about the playoffs unless we get to the final and lose. Which
obviously I don't.
end to a perfect season.
It will. It will. But I'm one of them. I don't want to see him get any form of success at all. So I'd rather they finish 10th and 11th. But if they do get to Wembley for especially the semi-final, I was saying this to my dad yesterday. I need to stop mentioning my dad because he gets big-headed when I mention him. I mentioned him 3 times now. Like it's some sort of achievement to be mentioned on a shit podcast that your son does. But if they do get to the semi-final, I just can't see him taking that many. I reckon they'll probably take about 25,000 and it'll look horrendous and that will be hilarious in itself.
That's what will be funny. Yeah. Half full ground.
And then they get dicked. Yeah.
A bit of me as well is like, there's only been like 8 teams that have never been to the new Wembley and they're one of them. So
they're one of them. Aki Stanley as well. We're the only team in East Lancashire that's been.
They're there with Colchester, Crawley Town, Ipswich, Nottingham Forest. Oh no, Nottingham Forest did go there, didn't they? They were playoffs.
Yeah, last year. Yeah, so that must
be 7 teams then. Oldham and Port Vale, so they are down with some absolute tin pot teams. No offense if you're listening to any of them. Tin pot teams.
Just know you are tin pot.
Yeah. Mr. Statman's come in with another clutch. They only have a 44% attendance for their own games. That's horrendous. That is horrendous.
A team that's currently in the playoff positions, you'd expect it to be a lot higher than that.
And they were all talking on the hashtag last week about them potentially catching Borough.
Yeah.
It's just, but yet no one shows up.
Their tickets are as cheap as anybody in the league. Like, I mean, fair play. Like, I'll never slag any team off for giving out cheap tickets because you should always make football as affordable for everybody as possible, regardless whether you can't fill your stadium or you can. So they can't fill the stadium after them being that cheap. They're on the brink of potentially getting in the Premier League via the playoffs, and they still can't fill the ground. Like, I don't get it. They're this mentality that they're a big club, like they're just not. They're like, if the very best they'll be is on par with us in terms of size in this country. That's the very best they'll be.
If it wasn't for 95, they wouldn't even be in the debate. If it wasn't for 95, they wouldn't. Like, I always see people create these best Premier Leagues and shit, all the biggest clubs, and Blackburn are always in it. But if it weren't for 95, they offer nothing. But enough about them. We hate them. Hopefully they don't go up. We're going up. But just before I do go, I'll put this comment on screen for Mac. He says, "What is our average attendance percentage this season? It's got to be high." Solent Clarence, if you're listening, come in clutch. I can see Nathan tapping away, so maybe Nathan's going to come in clutch.
I'm sure I saw that. Didn't the club tweet that?
Yeah.
Is it 20,000 something? It's 20. I'm sure it's 20,500.
It's like 90%
Yeah, it's got to be at 90s. It's definitely got to be in the 90s in terms of percentage. 100%.
It's been pretty much full, hasn't it? I'm sure the club tweeted something about it.
I'm sure Solent's gonna come up clutch if Nathan don't. Oh, Solent's in. I don't know if he's made a number up though. I don't know if he's made a number up. He says it's 87.4. I'm surprised at that.
It looks about. I think it might be a bit higher than. Yeah, no, it looks about right. The average number over the season 19,700. So 19,000 out of 22. You're probably looking at high 80s, maybe early 90s. So
is that just league, or is that everything?
I think that's just league on that I'm looking at. Well, anyway, next season we've got a waiting list for season tickets, man.
I know. It's absolute madness. Absolute madness.
Waiting list are massive.
And next season's going to be fun. We're going to be in the Premier League. We're going to enjoy it. We're going up as champions. Top is Norwich at 95.3. Norwich have always done well with that.
There's no anyway around apart from Ipswich. So.
Yeah, true. Anyway, we've gone past an hour. I know Neil needs to go. He's got a Christian to go. So if you have joined late, like I know a lot of people have done, then once I end this stream, do not worry. The videos, you can just watch it again from the beginning, and you can just watch the whole thing as and when you want. Thank you to everybody for coming on the show. Thank you to Neil. Thank you to Nathan. It's been a pleasure. It's always good having you boys on. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Thank you to everybody watching, listening. The podcast will be up hopefully within the next half an hour. But as I said, thank you for watching, and I will hopefully do a pre-game show before the Hull match. I just still need to sort out a Hull fan to come on, but hopefully we get that sorted. And I'll see you later in this week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Cheers, Joe.